Hello and welcome back to part 2 of the BMI calculator. So today we are going to go ahead and then probably try and finish up the cards. So just looking at the design again, we are here to create 2 of these cards. Okay, so let's jump in straight. So the last time we created this container, that is whatever this color is, and then we go all the way to the text which says 15 right here. So if we move out of the text, okay, we are inside the column of the container. So notice that the entire thing is a column, okay, and inside that column we have a text that says check your body mass. That's this text. Now after the size box that gives us the space, we have this container, and that is this container here. Now the child of that container is a column, and you can see the text that says age, that's what we see here, and we can see the other text that says 15, that's what we see here. So inside the column of the container we are going to be creating a row widget. Okay, so inside there we are going to call a row. Now if you are wondering why we are using a row, if you look at our design, we have these 2 guys here and they are side by side, and we know that when we want to arrange things side by side, so from right to left or left to right, horizontally we use a row, vertically we use a column. Okay, so inside here we are going to say row, and we know a row will definitely take some children. Now inside here, just to show you what we are going to do, let's pick a floating action button, and for some reason I am not getting what I want, so okay, there it is. So I'm going to set the on press to now for now, if I can find my curly braces, and I'm going to save this and let's see what we have. So notice we get 1 of these. Okay, so meaning that if I make a duplicate of this, so all I did was to hold Shift and Alt while I was here and press the down arrow key, then we get 2 of them. And just for the sake of it, let me give this a child of an icon. So let's go ahead and say child is going to be an icon, and this is going to be icons called add, and I'm going to grab this child and I'll paste this, and over here you would think this is minus, but it is removed. Mostly takes me a while to kind of remember what is what. So you can see what we kind of have. So we have these. Now if you remember yesterday or in the last tutorial, I did say that from the docs, the floating action button, we do not use more than 1 per screen. So we're saying we're going to look at how we can create our own floating action button sort of from the base widget. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to hold down the control key and then click on the floating action button, and this is going to take me to the floating action button class here. Now one thing I do know is all of these things has a base widget. So what I'm going to do is, instead of scrolling through to find it, I'm going to press Ctrl F and I'm going to type raw, and basically what we need is a raw material button. So I'm going to use the down arrow to actually find this raw material button right here. Okay, this guy. So this raw material button is sort of the base for most of the buttons we see. Okay, and it has a whole lot of properties in which we can create our own buttons right from this. Okay, so the idea here is we are going to be creating our own kind of floating action button using this raw material button class here. Okay, so I'm going to close out of these things, and then let's see how we are going to do that. So instead of doing this in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of these floating action buttons. I'm going to close out of these floating action buttons just like so, and in fact I'm going to also get rid of the child, and you'll soon understand what I'm about to do. we have our row in there. Now if we continue to build everything in this class, it's going to get really long. So what I'm going to do is refactor this and extract a widget. Okay, so if you look at the design, this card and that card, very similar, and in fact even this one. So it will be nice to have one type of widget that kind of supports these. Okay, if you don't understand what I'm saying, you'll soon see that. So if we wanted to refactor this widget, so this container, okay, we want, so if I can collapse this, we want this entire container to become its own widget. So what we can do is place your pointer on the container, hold down the control key and press period or full stop to bring this drop down. And what we can do here is we can extract widget. Okay, not method but widget. I'm going to click on this and we have to give this a name. So you can see the naming convention up there. I'm going to call this BMI card and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so you can see that this BMI card is what we have here. Okay, so later essentially we can move this to its own page while making this screen quite shorter. Okay, so what we are going to do now is make some customizations to this BMI card. So we want some of these things to be how do I call it, changeable, because the next card we have here isn't going to be age but weight, and the value there is going to be different, as you can see. So we want a way such that we can change the age and the the age value, if that's what I can say. Okay, so that is what we are hoping to do over here. And this row, we would also make a change to it. So how do we do that? Well, we'll go to the top part here and I'm going to leave this key in there, and then we are going to create some final values here. So here I'm going to say final string, and if you're wondering why I'm saying string, that is because it's going to take the place of this. So final string, I'm going to call this title, and I'm going to create another final. We can make it string for now. If it needs changing, let's make it value, and then I'm going to make a final widget and I'm going to call this child. And if you're getting confused, all that I'm trying to do is this age here is a string type, so I'm creating a string value or string type called title, which will replace this, and then the same thing for the value, which will replace this. And why do I have a widget here? Well, row is a widget, so that will replace that, so that if we wanted to even put a column here, we can do that. Okay, so the next thing I'll be doing is I have to add this or initialize them inside the constructor. So I'm going to hold down control and hit period, and then I can add all final formal parameters. So when I click on this, this is going to add them and make them required. Okay, because there's no optional field here. I need all of them to be required. If I save this right now, we would have an error here because then this requires the child and some other things. So what I'm going to do is title is going to replace this entire text string. So I'm going to put in title here. Then this we know is value. And then this row we know is going to be our child. Just like this. So now when I go back here, I need to provide those values. So you can see the name parameter child is required. So what I'm going to first provide is my title, and this is a string. So I'm simply going to say this is going to be age, and then the next value I have to provide is my value, and this value is also a string, so this is going to be 15. And then the final thing I have to provide is the child. So this child is going to be a widget, and we know what we need here is a row. For now, I'll just leave this here. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead, put a comma at the end here, and then save this. And you can see we literally have the same thing, just that we didn't put in anything here. Okay, so let's go ahead and then build this raw material button. So now let's go ahead and build our own button that we can use for the site. Okay, so what I'm going to do is go in here and then call for my children, and then inside here I'm going to call the raw material button, and that is asking for an unpressed. So for now I'm just going to make that null for now, and there are quite a lot of properties that we can put into this class. So what type of shape do we need, and what are some of the things? So for the shape, we have a property called shape, and this shape we have quite a number of them. Let me see if this can help. So we have the shape border. So this doesn't state, but one of the common shapes we have is the rounded rectangular border. So if I start typing rounded rectangular border, we can have that. I believe we also have beveled rectangular border, something like that. So if I go with the rounded rectangular border, then I'll have to provide some properties inside it, and one of the common properties you would provide is the border radius. So what is going to be the border radius of this? We can say border radius dot let's go with circular. So border radius of circular, and then we can go with say 8.0, and then we're going to use this again over here. Okay, so that's one part down. I'm just going to format the Shift Alt F so that I know where exactly I am, so I can get out of the rectangular border here, but while still in the raw material button. The next thing we can do is create the fill color. So the fill color here, I'm just going to go with colors the white. And don't worry if you're not understanding what I'm doing so far. And we have to provide something called constraints. Okay, so constraints are basically going to be sort of like our width and height to force this to stay in shape. So this is going to take something called box constraints, and the box constraints I'm going to use the .tight for, and this is going to provide me with a height, and this height I'm going to go with 46 0.0 for the height. Oops, not O but 0. And then for the width, literally the same thing. So we are so we are creating some kind of a square, if I can say that. I could have just copied that. So for width, okay, I'm going to save this right now and see whether we have something showing up. So you can see what we've created so far. Okay, now I believe we can go ahead and then add some elevation. So I would go outside of the constraints, and then we have the elevation property, and then I'm going to set this to 6 because why not? So if you're wondering how I know all of these things, well, the docs are there. Also, each time you are confused what property something has, you can always place your pointer so right at the opening and press Ctrl spacebar, and you can see all the properties that we can enter here. So pattern, a whole lot, splash color, text style, all of these things, and you can just try them out. Okay, so I think it's about time we give this a child. So I'm going to give this a child. So we know the child here is going to be an icon, and this icon is going to be icons dot. So let me see, I'm going to make this the remove first. I'm going to make that remove, and I'll just make the size of this a little bit bigger. So I'm going to make 30, and the color of this icon, we are going to take that from our text theme. So we can use the same theme dot of context, and then we can call the primary color. Okay, let's save this, and then we get the minus. So literally what I have to do is to duplicate this, and then for the next guy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy everything. So let me not get myself confused. So this is the BMI card. So yeah, I need to copy this part rather, and then paste this in there like so. And then I just need to make a few changes, and literally the change I need to make is make this add, and there we go. We can see we have our buttons like so. So the next thing we want to do is there really isn't enough space, so we can play around with what we have. So in the row we can use the cross axis, and then let me see, I don't really know, not cross axis, I mean need to use the main axis. So using the main axis, I'm going to go between either space between or space around or space evenly. So I'm just going to try this and see which one. This kind of looks like it does the trick. This feels like it does the trick. Just for the sake of it, I'm going to try the other one. So space between, okay, that's not good. So I'll just undo that and then use this. So you can also see that this isn't centered. Okay, like all of this isn't centered. We can see this isn't centered, so what we can do is we can use the cross. Okay, so let me be sure of this. So where I am right now is just the row, but we need the fucking hell. We can see this isn't centered, and we can use, okay, let me keep track back. So we are in the row, so that's just this part, but we need everything to be centered. So we need to go into the BMI card. So I just control click on that, and remember this container has a column right here, so we can use the main axis alignment of the container of that column, sorry, and then we can center everything just like that. So yeah, I think I'm happy with that. Maybe we can create a little more space, but I'll just leave this as it is. So we have finished building this, but if you look at the raw material button, we had to make copies of it. So whenever you realize you are duplicating code like this, especially when you're creating widgets that are very similar, the only thing that changes here is just these two. So what we can do, we can also extract this, okay, and then do what? Create our widget. So what I'm going to do is, just like I did before, control period, and I'm going to say extract widget, and I don't know what to call this, maybe BMI button. Naming can be hard. So this is going to be my BMI button. So I'm going to go ahead and look for this BMI button, and I'm happy with everything, just that I need to make sure that I can change this. Okay, so this over here is an icon. Okay, an icon is a type of widget that comes from the icon data class. So we can say final icon data, and I'll call this icon. We could have called it child, but I'll just call it that, and we know what to do next. I'm going to hold control, click on this, and then add final field properties. Now for some reason, if you try it and you are not getting this add to final field properties, but I'm sure you should, there is an extension that is I think that data classes, one of these, they should help you with that. Okay, so now I can come to, where are you, this child here. I would remove everything here, so as you can see, this is icon, this is icon data. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get rid of this and then put in icon here, put me in my corner, sorry, comma, just like that. So we are going to have trouble because we need to provide the icon. So what I can do now is I can just call the icon and then pass in my icons dot, and that was remove, I believe, just like that. Okay, it's going to complain with the cons and all of that. So you know what, let me just do that to tidy up this code, and notice how little code we've just written. And in fact, if I get rid of this comma, now this entire part, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this part so that I don't have to type it. I'm going to copy it, then I'm going to remove this entire part, get rid of that. I'll make a duplicate of this shift alt down arrow, and I'm going to provide the add, and I'll get rid of this. Okay, so this is complaining a lot. So for now, just to keep things clean, I'm going to paste this here so that we can have this looking like that. So you can see nothing changes, but we've greatly shortened this. We've greatly shortened this code. So if I needed another version of this, then all I need to do is make a copy of this BMI card. So I'm going to grab this BMI card, make a copy of it, and then place it in there. I just need to make a few changes. So from our design, we are going to have weight and 75. So I'm going to have this as weight and this as 75, and I'm going to save this, and you can see we are having this in a column. So what did I do wrong? So all of this that I'm doing is still in a column, but remember the BMI card has a column and a child. So what I was supposed to do is, if I can find it again, this child here is a row for these two, but if we go all the way up, so the scaffold, the main body here is a column, so whatever we put in there is going to be in a column. So we needed a column to put this first part, and then, so let me show you the design. We needed a column for the entire body, so we got this first part, but then these two guys have to be in what? A row. You see that? So to enforce that, I'm going to copy these two BMI cards from the column. So in fact, I'll cut it out, and then after the spacing, so after this check your body mass index blah blah blah, this text, I need a row so that I can put these two in. So I'm going to call in a row, and of course we know a row will take some children, and the children are going to be what I cut, so I'm going to paste them inside. Okay, I'm going to save this, and then we have this right here. Okay, so we can see we do not have space between. So how can we do this? We can go to that new row right here, and again we can play with those properties. So the main axis alignment, we can say main axis alignment, and we can use space between, see how that looks like, and that looks perfect. Okay, so for this tutorial, or for today's chapter, we'll be able to create our own buttons. From this, we have been able to create our own widgets, and in fact, I'm going to create new files to contain these classes. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a new file. I'll call this BMI underscore button .dart, and we would need the material class. And then what I'll do is, I'm going back to the home screen, I'll grab the BMI button class. Is that it? I believe so. I'm going to cut it. I think I have overcut something I'm not supposed to. So this is the BMI card, and this is the BMI button. So I'm supposed to end here. So I'm going to grab this, cut it, go to the BMI button class, paste this in here, and I do also have to import this. So let's see if VS Code is going to grab this. So we get a ScreenUtil, everything here is fine. So I can go back here, and I'm going to do some import. So I'm going to hold Control period, and I'm going to import this over here. That's fine. Then I'm going to also grab the BMI card. I'm going to cut it, Control X, create a new file, call this BMI underscore card .dart, and then import this material, paste this in here, and again I'm going to bring in this class ScreenUtil. I believe everything here is fine. So I'll head back to the home.dat, and we are going to import this package. Okay, so now I'm going to save this, and nothing should change. Okay, so in this lesson we have totally built this while refactoring a lot of our code. So the home screen isn't bloated with a lot of code. We've separated all of this. So in the coming chapter, we are going to look at how we are going to create our slider. I'll see you in that video. Take care.